Hello and welcome to my channel where we discuss the Power Platform. In today's episode we're going to have a look at component libraries. So let's get straight into it. So component libraries are basically what we use to package up components. So first we need to understand what components are. Components are reusable building blocks for Canvas applications. For example, if you have a header, for example, that you're using across multiple applications, of course, you don't want to keep rebuilding that every time you make it. That would be really quite annoying. The component framework is basically the framework that empowers professional developers to actually build and to create those code components as well. So we're going to really just jump into it, really. There's a brief idea of what I'll be doing in the demo portion, which is, of course, most of the video. So we're going to create a simple component. We're going to share the component. We're going to look at inputs and outputs of a component. We're going to show the output in an actual application. We're going to make a change to the component and even make a copy of the component within our own application. So let's head over to Power Apps. So first, to start with, this is I'm on make.powerapps.com, and you see I have a bunch of apps in my tenant here, and I have a bunch of component libraries. So this is where your components will sit. So right now I have this save component here, and just like you do with apps, you can edit, you can delete, you can actually share this component as well. So I could share this with someone else within my tenant. I can even go to details and actually look at the versions for that component as well. So let's go ahead and let's build a new component in here. So I'm going to go new component library, and we'll call this the header component, and we'll go ahead and create that. So give that a second to open. At the same time, what I'm going to do is I am going to obviously have an app in order to read that component. So we're also going to have that available for us as well. So I'm just going to create a new tablet layout app that's slowly opening there in the background. So in this header component, what I basically want is, this is the whole page at the moment, but what I want is, let's say I'm going to put, let's go for, what am I looking for? I'm looking for a rectangle. I could also just use a label, but let's do the rectangle since I've committed to finding it. So this is going to be kind of in my header section, and I want it to be like the width of this. So I can go to the width of this. And I can go app.width. So I just want it to be as big as my app, really. And then it's got an arbitrary height of, like, say, 152. And then within here, I want to change the color because I don't really like that color. So I go for this color. And then what I'll do is I'm just going to put a random, let's go for, which icon shall we go for? Let's go with a tick. So just put a tick there. It's just something I want on every page. Maybe tick is kind of my way of saving the data or something like that. So I kind of want this this canvas to also be the same height, so just do that. Cool, so I've got a component there. I'm going to call it header component. Oh, whoops. And save that right here. And I could share this, of course, but I'm not going to. And then over in my application, I want to bring that component in. So I click on add, and within this add area, I click on get more components, and you can see my save component from earlier, and then also my component 1 as it's named in there. And so I can click on library components, and I can bring this header component in. And you see now it's actually the width of it. I'm going to change it actually, so I'm going to go to here and make the page width 1366, and also the shape 1366. So it actually fits my desktop application there. And you'll see, I'll move this across. Bring that in again. So of course, I have to save and publish my my component there. So I'm just bringing it back in. And it's now fitting the whole page. The great thing is now I can basically change this. So say if I change this to white now, I can put a label on the page and say, hello world. Make that white. Maybe make that centered, a bit bold. I can save that, publish it, head over to my app, and if I just save, so I say app component 2, so what I've done here is I've closed and opened my application. As I do that, it tells me that component library updates are available, so I can review that, and all of a sudden my component is up to date. Now, the other thing we could do in this is actually, well, we don't always want it to be hello world. We want to change that. So we're going to play with using an input variable here. So on this component, we go to new custom property, and I'm going to go input variable, and I'm going to say that I just want a piece of text, basically, that I'm going to be using. And I'm going to essentially say that instead of using that text here, I'm going to say that the component is called component 1, so it's not a very good title, but it's the variable, the input variable for component 1. So essentially it's there now. Save and publish that. I'm going to go ahead and open up the app again. Get the new change. And now I can actually use the piece of text on there as the input variable. So now, if I click on this component, I have this input variable here. So instead of text, I can type in anything I want. So what I could do here is, actually use this app.activescreen.name, and that would now, whatever I change this to, so I can say screen, this could be my intro screen. It's just going to show that in the title here. Okay, that's not quite updated, but it should have. So the other thing we're going to have a look at is outputs. So for outputs, what we do is back in here, I'm going to create a new component, and I'm going to say, let's do a number, let's go for date. That's a date component. And what we're going to do in here is I'm going to add a date field on this page. I'm going to add a button on this page. And what I want it to do is whatever the date I input onto my app is going to be, I'm then going to input, basically calculate 2 weeks from that date. So I'm going to build this once, and then every single app I use, I'm going to be able to do this. So now we're not only doing the input, we're also doing the output as part of this as well. So to do that, what we do is this is going to be a date that we give the app. So I'm going to create an input variable for this. So we'll call it input date. And I want it to be a date, which is here. Now, when I click on this, I basically want the output date var, which is a variable I'm setting to be whatever date is in datepicker.1 plus, let's say, 14 days. That's the output date var. So I'm going to calculate that. And then I want this to be basically shown in here. So here you see that's 2 weeks from that date. So I'm going to create an output date in order to store that. So go for output here, and then go for date here. Of course, now it doesn't know what that is, but now what I do is if I go into this advanced settings area, I'm now going to say that the default for output date is the variable which I created, which is output date var. And that's how we can actually now show this as output date var. Because what's important here is that this global variable exists within this component. In order for it to exist within the application, we need to call it as a variable that comes from this component. So I hope that makes sense. We're going to now see in action, see how we can actually get that to be working. So let's go ahead and save and publish that. Over in here, we'll go to add and then go to get more components. And now within header, we also have a date component. So we'll bring that in. Go to library components, bring in the date component, like so. Bring that down a little bit. So of course, we can only specify the input component. So what we can do is, because of course we want this app to be usable by other people, not just someone that has access to that component. So essentially what we're going to do here is I'm going to say whatever is in date picker 2, I can essentially link that to the input. So this is date picker 2. So go back to the component and the input date will now be whatever's in date picker 2. So I could pick any old date. Of course, I just realized we don't actually need that. We can go ahead and say that this is, I'm going to go back a step. Obviously select from there, go like that maybe. And now my calculation is working. The other thing you can do is you can actually take a component and edit it. If you want to edit it, so the component library is of course accessible to everyone. You can edit it by just taking a copy of it and basically saying this is my component, that's mine. So it's like not actually saved anywhere else apart from in the application now. So that's also very useful to know about. So I'm going to go ahead and publish that, just close that down. A couple more things to know is you can import apps, of course, with components in them. So there's a whole component library that you can access. So there's essentially these samples within here. Just give that a second to open up. So there's all these samples that you could pick up of different components that people have made, and you can actually import those as apps and then basically copy and paste and put them into the component library. You can't actually import a component library. What you can do, however, is put them in solutions. So I'll just go for the default here. Sure, my solution's gone there. Here it is. So I can add existing and go to, so you go to other, it's a bit tricky to find here, and then component library preview. And I can say, basically, I want all of these to be packaged up and added. And now I can move this in between environments as well. It's taking a second to load, so while that happens, I just want to say, hope you enjoyed that. I hope that was interesting. Hope you use these. Let me know how you get on. And thanks again for taking the time to watch my video. And don't forget to hit subscribe. Thank you.